Thank you. We have a massive problem in America today, and it is a structural problem, not a business cycle problem when we look at our economy. And I look at a lot of young faces here. I'm not quite as young as I might look. I'm 43 years old. I've led 3 successful startups in the last 10 years. My teams, and yes, it is my teams, have created more than $1 billion in market capitalization. Most of you probably use products that have my products in them. I see some really, really severe problems in America. Problems that are so structural in nature, I'm not sure how entirely some of these are fixed immediately. Let me talk to you about some of them. We look at, in the infinite wisdom of our government, they brought out a law called Sarbanes-Oxley. And one thing I am not is I am not a partisan, nor am I a bipartisan. There is a difference between what is right and what is wrong. Sarbanes-Oxley violated one of the fundamental tenets of law. That means when people violate a law, the answer is not to create more laws. The answer is to enforce the existing law. Sarbanes-Oxley made matters so worse that it created a $2.5 million tax on young companies. And you know how much a percent of our economy is young companies? Anyone throw out an answer? 21% since 1980 is the answer, young companies. It's the only sector of our economy that grew right through this depression, and it is a depression. In my district, it's 15.7% unemployment, and that's the liar number they tell you. My children, I've got 4 daughters, my children are $48,000 in debt apiece. Now, I don't talk about just Christian values or just Mosaic law values. I talk about the old values. The debtor is servant to the lender. It's an old value. And you know what? If we don't get our debt problem solved, we're all back on the Democrat plantation. We're slaves. 50% of what money I make goes not for what I want to spend it on, but what somebody else tells me I should spend it on. Okay? This is ridiculous. Absolutely, fundamentally ridiculous. And you know what it does? Things like this have created such a problem in our economy. Sarbanes-Oxley, just that stupid law alone, has been estimated to remove more than 2 million jobs out of our economy. That's an unbelievable number. And you know what? California is even disproportionately affected because most of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, the negative impact, is in things like the Silicon Valley and the venture capital community. It's unbelievable what we're doing. You know what? The wounds in our economy are self-inflicted. We played Russian roulette with ourselves and expected a good outcome. It is absolutely insane what we're doing. I talk about capital gains tax, which is a double taxation. And the reason I'm talking so much about taxation, because taxation is a form of liberty. Money is your ability to go do things that you want to do. And the more government takes away, if you look at a true slave, that's a person under 100% taxation. That's what a slave is. My ancestral grandfather was wounded at the Battle of the Wilderness. Okay? A lot of people say, well, the Civil War was about states' rights, and it was a little bit. But you know what? His regiment wrote a letter. And you can come by my booth down here by Romney and Gingrich. That's where it physically is located. I didn't pick where my booth was. But what I'm trying to say is this. His regiment wrote a letter that was one of the most powerful letters in the Civil War as to why they fought. And they wrote that letter before they went into battle. More than 1/3 of them were killed. Another 1/3 lay wounded before that was done. I lost 3 relatives in that battle, in that war rather, fighting for the freedom of the slave. And that's what they wrote. And if you don't believe me, come by the booth, read the letter. You'll be stunned by what our Civil War soldiers understood. And what did they criticize in that letter? They talked about education. They banned education. And what party in this country says, what party in this country says that we have to trap our kids into schools that aren't adequate to teach our children? Think about that. Democratic plantations in the South. They ripped those marriages apart. Who doesn't support the marriage compact? Who doesn't support the right of a child to have a mother and a father? You need a mother and a father. The number one economic determinant for a young man is whether his biological father is in the home. The number one way to determine his educational level is with the biological father is in the home. We need to have our fathers in their homes. And government can't necessarily fix that, but we can stop subsidizing the breakup of the family. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, John. The next speaker we have today is, I'm looking around, candidate Dan Roberts.
Not in the room.
Not in the room. Okay. All right, well, at this time, I'd like to have someone come up and speak for just a few minutes about how to get involved and to help continue this grassroots revolution we have going within the country.